We made an exhaustive list of the best players in CONCACAF. We poked and prodded and came to our conclusions. We're ready to share them with you, and I'm anxious to hear how you feel about it on this episode of the Yank Report. What's up? I'm Sam. This is the Yank Report, the show where we talk about all things American soccer. Today, we are putting the best American soccer players against the best players from Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, Panama, all the top nations in CONCACAF to establish our top 10 players in CONCACAF. Without further ado, and without me having to say the word CONCACAF much more, let's jump in to number one. And number one is absolutely no surprise to anybody. It is Alphonso Davies, the 21-year-old Bayern Munich left back, who is arguably the best left back in the world. Already in his young career, Alphonso Davies is already a Champions League winner. He is unbelievably quick, one of the fastest players in this Bundesliga. But it's not speed alone that makes Davies one of the best left backs in the world. His defensive ability, his positioning, his ability with the ball at his feet, and his ability once he gets forward into the attack are all absolutely elite. The highlight reel from Alphonso Davies makes him look like a superhero. His ability to beat players in space, to dribble out of tight spaces, to find passes, to find crosses, and to get on the end and score goals in the boxes is incredibly impressive. But I think the most remarkable thing about Alphonso Davies is the amount he's accomplished in such a short period of time. He's only 21 years old, and he's already established himself at one of the best clubs in the world as one of the finest players in the world. Not only that, but for his country, he was a massive part of Canada's #1 World Cup qualifying finish in CONCACAF. Look, there's a lot of tough decisions on this list. There's a lot of nitpicking that's going to go into the top 10, but I think number one is pretty undisputed. Alphonso Davies is that guy. At number two, we had a very tough decision. Do you go with the rising superstar, or do you go with the player that's won it all and that's done it all and is kind of coming to the end of his career? Ultimately, I decided to go with the rising superstar, and that is Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic is easily the most scrutinized American player in the world right now, both from fans abroad and from within the United States. But I think what gets lost in the shuffle is that Christian Pulisic has maintained at an elite level, at an elite club for a number of years now. And it's because he can do things on the ball that are absolutely special. His ability to dribble by players is absolutely world class. His burst off the ball is absolutely world class. And once he gets by people, he can find other players. He can finish himself. He can kind of do it all in that offensive third. The highlights of Christian Pulisic just breaking the ankles of world-class defenders are incredibly impressive. And he's one of those players that can make you jump off your seat and go, how did he just do that? From the time he was 17 years old, he's had to carry the weight of being the savior of American soccer, and he's done so incredibly gracefully. The only setbacks we've seen from Christian Pulisic throughout his young career have been injuries. His ability to stay on the field will be paramount to what his legacy will ultimately be. But if he retires right now, he's already built quite the impressive resume as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, American soccer player of all time. Speaking of greatest of all time, at number three, we have a player who can make a case for one of the greatest CONCACAF players of all time. That is Keylor Navas, the goalkeeper from Costa Rica. Now, he is 35 years old and is probably at the tail end of his remarkable career, but throughout his career, he has done just about everything you could do at the club level, winning multiple Champions Leagues, winning multiple Club World Cups. He has done it all between the pipes of Real Madrid and PSG. Keylor Navas is going to retire as one of the most decorated players at the club level in the history of CONCACAF. But for his nation, he has been as good as you can possibly be, carrying Costa Rica on his back at times, time and time again. Now, throughout his career, Keylor Navas has been one of the most disrespected great players of his generation. But through it all, Keylor Navas remains a remarkable goalkeeper, one of the best players of his generation, and one of the all-time best players in the history of CONCACAF. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be your #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports development, including this year's basketball championship finals, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, and the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts. At number 4, we're going with a player who's had a remarkable trajectory at the club level, and that is the Juventus midfielder, Weston McKennie. The Texas native came out of Schalke at a time whenever a lot of people were questioning the move, gets the move over to Turin, and it is absolutely electric right from the start. Weston McKennie is one of the most physically dominant midfielders in the world. His range is absolutely incredible. If you watch a Weston McKennie match, you're likely going to see a lot of Weston McKennie because he has the physical ability to be everywhere. And once he gets there, he can beat you with his size, he can beat you with his strength, he can beat you with his leaping ability, or he can beat you with his quality. It's really up to you. One of the most remarkable things about Weston McKennie is his ability to receive a ball and completely shake a defender out of their clothes as that ball is coming to him. I think he can do this because people just don't expect him to be as quick as he actually is and to have as deft a touch as he actually does. It's a remarkable thing to watch. And once he breaks open into open space, good luck trying to catch him because his size and his speed and his ball control are all remarkable and have made him an undroppable player for Juventus, despite the fact that Juventus has had such quality midfielders throughout Weston McKennie's tenure with the club. Now, it's not just about speed and size and athleticism with Weston McKennie. He can hit some remarkable balls and can do some things that are really unexpected. I think that's the big thing with Weston McKennie's game. Expect the unexpected because he can pull it off. And he just has such a almost mischievous approach on the pitch where he wants to do things that the defense is not expecting him to do. And once he gets into that box in the final third, good night. Weston McKennie is a phenomenal midfielder and just continues to impress and surprise with each game that passes. At number 4, we get our first Mexican. It is the 24-year-old midfielder from Ajax, Edson Alvarez. Alvarez is a player that I really enjoy watching. If you like the deep-lying playmaker style midfielder, Edson Alvarez is one for you. He's an absolute classy player on the ball. He can pick out passes all over the pitch, and his size and his physical strength allow him to be an opposing figure in the tackle. Now, he doesn't have off-the-charts athleticism like someone like Weston McKennie, but he makes up for that with his ability to read the game and his positioning. He seems to always be in the right spot, and once he gets to where he needs to be to either make the play or make the tackle, he has the quality to do that in a way that just seems to always leave his team in a great position moving forward. Edson Alvarez was heavily rumored to be connected with Manchester United in this transfer window. As of right now, nothing's happened in that regard, but I think that speaks to the quality of Edson Alvarez. If you watch Edson Alvarez play, I think you'll come away impressed with his poise and ball control, especially whenever he's in his own defensive third and looking to break out. His ability to just maintain possession, use his large frame, use his quality on the ball, and find an outlet, oftentimes finding a line-breaking pass to spring an attack, is the reason why he's considered one of the top deep-line playmakers out there and a prospect for a club like Manchester United. At number 6, we have a player who was expected to have a massive breakout season last year, but it didn't really happen, and that is the Canadian striker, Jonathan David. He is the striker for Lille in the French league, and after a breakout season in the French league where Lille was number 1 in the table and Jonathan David had 13 goals, he was expected to come out and just absolutely take over the world the next season. Now, he didn't. He only had 15 goals last season. I think a lot of that can be attributed to Lille's struggles in the league. I think the first thing that jumps out to you is his speed. He's got breakaway speed, the type of speed that can allow him to get in behind often, and he generates a lot of breakaways because of that. And once he's on the break, he's got a lot of nimble ability to finish, whether it's chips, whether it's passing the keeper, or whether it's just slotting it away. He can kind of do it all as a finisher. But it's not just his ability to get in behind. Jonathan David is truly the modern striker for the modern game. He plays so well with the ball at his feet and can often drift out into wide spaces and play just as well there. He's remarkable at taking players on and his one-on-one dribbling, and once he gets into space, he's pretty good at finding crosses and creating for others as well as finishing for himself. An all-around striker at only 22 years old, it seems like the sky is the absolute limit for Jonathan David. At number 7, I'm going with a player that I think has a genuine shot at being the number 1 player on this list in a couple of years. That is the 19-year-old American Giovanni Reyna, the midfielder slash winger slash all-around attacking player for Borussia Dortmund. Spent the majority of last season injured. But I think in the brief glimpses where we got to see him on the field and from last season, you can see why he's heralded as a player who can potentially be the next big thing in world soccer. The quality at his feet is absolutely remarkable. He can do things that make you gasp. He can do things that make you stand up out of your chair. His ability to take players on, to find space in areas where there is no space. His ability to use his big frame to shield people off while also moving through defenses is absolutely remarkable. We've seen him do a little bit of everything for Borussia Dortmund, whether that is finding passes for his former strike partner, Erling Haaland, or scoring himself, whether that's hitting shots from distance or making a slaloming run through the defense. Gio Reyna just seems to have that star ability where the game just moves slower for him, where he can see things that other players don't, and he can do things that other players can't. Now, 2022, 2023 is going to be a big season for Gio. If he can manage to stay healthy, he could potentially have a breakout World Cup. He could potentially have a breakout season for Borussia Dortmund, a team that's moved on from a lot of the star players that have been at the club for the last few years, and a team that is looking for someone like Gio to pick up the mantle and be a big piece of that team moving forward. At the end of this season, we could be saying Gio Reyna is one of the top attacking prospects in the world. That's something that I'm certainly looking forward to. It's all about whether or not he can stay healthy on that field. At number 8, I'm going with the 26-year-old winger from Napoli. That is Chucky Lozano, the dynamic Mexican midfielder that seems to always come up big for El Tri. He's a player over at Napoli that has put together a solid professional career as a winger. He loves to cut in. He loves to play playmaker. He loves to take players on one-on-one. Chucky Lozano is a player that loves to be flashy, loves to be creative in the attack. He's not a guy that's going to score a lot of goals. I think we've seen that at Napoli, but he's a very good professional winger at a very high level. He's very dynamic, especially when playing with El Tri. In his creative runs, he's going to pop up all over the field, and it's just a player that you always have to account for whenever you're the opposition defense. At number 9, I'm going to go with a player that, similar to Jonathan David, was expected to have a breakout year last season, and it didn't really happen. He kind of simmered instead of sizzled, and that is Tyler Adams, the American midfielder that was at RB Leipzig and has made the transfer over to Leeds in the Premier League. Now, Tyler Adams is a absolutely remarkable defender from that number 6 position. His anticipation, his reading of the game, his range, his quickness over the short distance, and his ability to get in and win tackles has made him a rising star in the Red Bull system. Now, I think last season where he was asked to be a little bit more of a playmaker and pass the ball a little bit more, kind of exposed some of the weaknesses in his game. But now that he's at Leeds, I think that's not necessarily going to be a problem for him this year. I think he's going to be looked to win the ball back and make the quick short pass to somebody else to get the ball moving up the field. And I think that's really his wheelhouse. That's really where you see him shine. For much of this year, he was known as the most important player for the U.S. men's national team. A lot of that due to just not having someone there who can supplement the Tyler Adams-like performance whenever he's gone, but also just because of his intelligence, his leadership, all the intangibles that he brings to the field. An absolutely remarkable player, a young player, a student of the game, and a player that I'm really looking forward to watching in the Premier League next season. Now we get to number 10, the last entry on the top 10 list. And before we say number 10, there's some honorable mentions out there. There's some players that I was really deliberating on who it could be. One of which, the 24-year-old Jamaican playing at Aston Villa, Leon Bailey, a dynamic winger, a very dangerous player for both Aston Villa and Jamaica. Speaking of dangerous wingers, Tecatito Corona, he's 29 years old at Sevilla, just a remarkable dribbler on the ball, a pacey player. And then there's 2 Americans, Brendan Aronson, the player who made the $29 million transfer over to Leeds this season, and then Tim Weah, the American winger at Lille, who outplayed Christian Pulisic and Brendan Aronson from the winger position throughout World Cup qualifying for the United States, despite not having a huge season for Lille. But ultimately, I didn't go with any of those players. I went with a right back, the 21-year-old Barcelona right back from the United States, Sergino Dest, who is just absolutely one of my favorite players in the world to watch. A player that is oozing with flair, oozing with class, and a penchant for taking players on and embarrassing them in the open field. Sergino Dest is just a very fun player to watch over at right back for Barcelona. Now, throughout his Barcelona career, there's been a lot of questions about his defending and about what he's going to be moving forward, if Barcelona is going to ship him off, or is, he's been linked to Bayern Munich and Chelsea and a lot of others. But through it all, he's maintained at Barcelona, I think because he's got the upside to be one of the top right backs in the world. And I think we were starting to see it right before his injury last season. Now, the highlight tapes for Sergino Dest are just incredible. I mean, that strike he had against Costa Rica in World Cup qualifying will go down in history as one of the great American World Cup qualifying goals of all time. And then there's what he's done for Barcelona in the combination game, in the build-up, in the possession, where he is just incredible. Now, he's going to have to get better on the defensive side of the ball, but I think he can get there. And once he does, I think we'll be talking about one of the top right backs in the world. Now, that's my list of the top 10 CONCACAF players right now. I know that these lists always elicit a lot of discussion, so I'm anxious to hear where you guys have some of these players. If there's players that I missed, if there's players that I overrated, let me know in the comment section. Keep it clean in the comment section. As always, si puede hablar español, dígame un comentario en español. If you want the Yank Report in podcast form, you can find it anywhere podcasts are found. Make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe. We've been getting a ton of new subscribers over the last month. It's been awesome. If you really want to support the channel, the best way to do so is to become a member. You get access to some badges and to see the videos first and some other perks like that. Shout out to the brand new Tier 2 member, Michael Baker. He joins our other Tier 2 members, Manuel Ariveras, Mike Irish, Chris Matassa, Matthew Hanna, and Matthew Doyle. Guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Sam, and this is the Yank Report brought to you by Bet Online.